Hello, this is Elizabeth Clare Brewington. I am the host and producer of Discover Brightside, a multimedia network. And each month we bring people together and we have lively discussions and we have a great time. We hope that wherever you're watching this video, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or online or in our watch parties or social media, we hope that you will engage with a question, with a comment. And if you are interested in any of the services, we'll make sure that we will have links to each of our experts so that you can contact them directly. And we hope that you do that. So today we're going to talk about three topics. First of all, we're going to talk about life in general and time, which is one of our most valuable resources. I'm going to ask my audience, how are you doing? How are you coping? And the first of this series of questions is mental health, and has it had an impact since COVID? And I'm going to throw this question to the panels. I don't know if you know how to raise your hand. You have to look at the icon below and raise your hand, or you can just start talking. So anyone would like to comment on how has COVID changed us, if it has?
So they've changed Zoom, and I don't see the new raise hand feature.
Me either.
I'm Mary Beth O'Connor. I'm the author of From Junkie to Judge, One Woman's Triumph Over Trauma and Addiction. I'm on the board for LifeRing Secular Recovery and She Recovers Foundation. So in the mental health area, my primary focus, although I also look at PTSD and anxiety, but my primary focus is addiction, which today we call substance use disorders. And I will say during COVID, there actually was a significant uptick in people using substances excessively and also developing addictions, use disorders. Just as one example, alcohol, which I always emphasize when we talk about drugs, alcohol is a drug. Alcohol remains the #1 abused drug in America. It is still the #1 killer. It beats all other drugs combined except for cigarettes. And during COVID, there was a real increase in alcohol use, in particular among women. And so COVID, of course, was its own stressor, right? It's a stressful time, but people were also adjusting their workload, many people working from home. Children were home 24/7 for a while, often, right? That was new while you're trying to balance work. Their school was now home, and people are trying to juggle that. And so there were a lot of tensions. People also lost some of their normal supports, right? They couldn't go to necessarily their therapist or go to a support meeting. All those things disappeared for a while, or although they eventually end up online. And so there was a significant uptick in substance use, in excessive substance use, including alcohol. And so, for example, today there is an all-time high number of women in their 30s that are showing up with significant liver and kidney disease. And it's a result of that COVID and post-COVID period. So that's a definite challenge to make sure that that people recognize it, address it early. You know, we used to talk about how if you had an addiction, you had to have this horrible, awful bottom before you would get help, but that's absolutely not true. As soon as the sooner that these problems are addressed, early intervention, when the problem is sort of at the more mild or moderate level, not at the extreme severe level, that is what we encourage. You know, reach out for help from your doctors, reach out for help from your therapists, find supports in your community or online, and do it as early as you can. That's going to be to your advantage. So that's definitely what I've seen in my sort of sphere.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen those numbers and research. Yes, Dr. Deitrick.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in addition to that, from a family practice perspective, I think that some anxiety has increased as well, as far as fear of getting the infection. I have people like even to this day coming in to still be tested for COVID, a small little cough or whatever, or somebody coughs in their direction. Everybody's just like hyper vigilant and just scared. They've lost loved ones in the past. Oh no, am I going to get it? Do I have it? That kind of thing. And so I feel that, just even seeing day to day, people are a little bit more anxious than prior to that. And so that's definitely contributing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to add to that. I think there are multiple effects of COVID that contribute to rise of mental health and many diagnoses. Like Mary and Dr. Deitrick already commented on anxiety and substance use. There are also a few others due to kind of changes in our social structure. One is actually ADHD. There's a high rise in ADHD when people switch from working in office to working from home, when there's much more distraction, when they have multiple devices, screens in front of them, and them having a difficult time managing themselves in terms of how to get their work done, how to prioritize tasks. So we definitely see a rise in that. Secondly, is the rise of mental health need in the youth population. We know in this country right now there's a huge crisis in the youth population, and that is because the social media isolation. You are more connected online, but you're less connected in real life. And we humans, to go with Dr. Deitrick's, one of the pillars being relationships, and due to the isolation effect, many of us, adults and youth alike, lost friends because of the lack of social interactions, and some of the friendship did not recover even after COVID has lifted. That is just to name a few others, but the overall impact is still remnant to today. I actually just read a report put out by the Mental Health of America for 2024, and they found that over the past, I quote the statistic, over the past year, 23% of adults has reported that they have experienced mental health symptoms, and that is 60 million Americans. And only about less than half of those in the survey reported that they have sought help.
Wow, that is a significant number. So Leri and then Brittany.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that too. A lot of isolation and loneliness. A lot of people, were disconnected from their friends, family, people at work. Working at home, you don't have those social interactions that you normally have day to day with people, and that affected a lot of people. But one of the biggest ones I've seen, especially in my community, is the economic stress. That really affected people's mental health and physical health. It affected people in so many ways, and I still know that there are a lot of people who have not recovered from COVID based on their finances and their mental health and their physical health, and just the grief and loss. A lot of people in the underprivileged communities lost a lot of people. They weren't, they either had the fear of medical treatment because of the big gap between the way that we're normally perceived in getting healthcare, and or just, many of our communities aren't, they're healthcare. I mean, mental health care is not like part of our community. And so a lot of us didn't have it before the pandemic, and so didn't really go to seek it after the pandemic. And that's why I think that having different types of mental health that maybe will appeal to more people, even if it's the meditation or the Qigong, or, anything that would help you to get your mental health back, begin to self-love, self-care, self-appreciation, and all of those things. I think that that's really important right now.
So what you're saying is that while we were in isolation, we discovered a lot of things that we didn't know existed. So that is true. So over to you, Brittany. You had your hand up.
Yes, this is kind of borrowing some of what Dr. Wang had shared. From a developmental perspective, something I saw was more children that were parented in isolation. So specifically, child abuse was less frequently reported. And so a lot of the work that I do is coming from child advocacy centers, and so many of the reports initially start from the school system. And so because children were not in school, or maybe they were skipping their annual physicals because parents were afraid to take them for not essential health care. There were no safe adults looking at these children. And so what happened from a therapeutic perspective is I'm seeing these cases where the child abuse might have happened a year or more ago, whereas typically they might have been in my office a bit sooner. And so I think that isolation is a different shift. And then kind of off of that, then parents are also parenting in isolation. And so a lot of their information is coming from social media. And there has been this social shift that I've seen in what it means to be an authoritative parenting, and they're an authoritative parent. And there's all of these buzzwords around gentle parenting, or different ideas, right? That where it's very emotionally focused. And that's, from my perspective, just a rebranding of what we always have known as the gold standard of parenting. That's been just watered down by social media. So those have been some things I've seen.
Okay. All right. So let's move to recovering tips. So I know Jonathan was going to show us some movement, some exercises. So Jonathan, if you would like to share with us some recovery tips from what was just discussed through movement.
Yeah, of course. So the movements for Qigong, as I was saying before, there's lots of different ways of doing it, but the most general, I have to do this standing up.
Yeah, let me put you in, hold on.
So what you need to do is stand with your feet shoulder width, relaxing your body so you kind of sinking into the ground. And there's 3 basic ways you can do the same thing. Granted, that sounds weird, but you'll see. So the first way to do it is to stretch your arms out almost as if you're going to be touching the horizons. And you're bringing the hands up above your head with your palms facing down. Bring your hands straight down to the abdomen. And you want to do that 3 times, so do it again. So this time you're going to bring your hands out, touching the horizon. Inhale up, palms facing down. And exhale, bring your hands down. And then 3 for good luck. And exhaling down. So you want the palms to be facing down, going down. So the trick is inhale up, exhale down. If you are in, like we're all sitting, well, you're sitting down at your computer, you don't want to stand up, you don't have space, you're at a cubicle or whatever, put your hands here at your belt level, palms up. Bring your hands up to about throat level with an inhale, palms facing down, exhale down. Always remember to keep the shoulders relaxed. So your shoulders should feel like it's going down into your hips, going down into your feet, going into the ground. Relax, but always keep your spine straight. And again, bring your hands up and exhale down. And 3 times. So those are 2 ways, or you can do them that are pretty obvious. If you need to do this and you're in public or you're giving a presentation and you don't want to be obvious, right down here by the abdomen. Inhale up, turn them over, exhale down. So if you have a podium, you can be doing this and no one will notice. Or if you're sitting down, No one will notice. So that brings your mind and body together, becoming one, in a way, one wavelength. And that is the most basic kind of qigong that you can practice.
Wow, that was incredible. Yeah, I feel so much better. Doesn't everyone
Yeah.
feel so? All right,
So
so
it's the magic three,
the magic.
3 times.
Okay,
You
okay.
do it once, kind of, twice, almost there, 3. It tops it off perfectly. Obviously, you can do more, but
Yeah.
at least 3.
Okay, so the second discussion is recovery. Steve, you had mentioned that you were going to give us some tips on laughter, and that would fall right in with recovery.
Yes, as we're looking at recovery, if people are willing to integrate humor into their lives, then that can add a great deal, particularly to emotional recovery, but even physiologically. We know that, for example, laughter reduces serum cortisol, which is the well-known stress hormone. So you will often hear that laughter reduces stress. Laughter also creates a tension and release in the body, so it can be used as a relaxation, muscular relaxation exercise. Then, and the area that I work in much more, would be looking at the emotional aspect of humor. That is, the experience of humor and distressing emotions can't occupy the same psychological space. And what I mean by that is when you're experiencing humor, you can't feel anxiety at the same time. It's just impossible because the experience of humor removes anxiety. Now, will your anxiety come back? Sure. But it's a way of getting relief. And one way that I recommend doing that, I mean, there are a multitude of ways, but one of the most simple is to think of a time in your life where you laughed so hard you fell down, or laughed so hard you cried, or laughed so hard that tears rolled down your legs. And that's more a problem for women than men. But the idea is that you laugh so hard that I lost my train of thought. Where was I going? I don't know where I was
Laugh
going.
so hard.
I'm sorry?
I said you laugh so hard. I know, I do that all the time. Fall off the
because
chair.
I don't want to emphasize laughter. I want to emphasize the emotional experience that shifts the distress. Then also the cognitive experience of humor. I know where I was going. I was going to imagine a time where you laughed so hard you fell down. That can become your humor visualization. And you can use that just like people do visualization of look at your favorite spot, relax, and those are fine. But with a humor visualization, you get the benefit of distraction, which is one way to reduce stress, although it's a temporary one. But you also get the advantage of emotions dissolving. So people can pick their favorite time that they experienced a great deal of humor. If they take that into a visualization, they may laugh, and that's going to be helpful. They may feel mirth, which is the emotional part. They may shift their cognitions. And we know that most distressing emotion, whether you're talking about anxiety, depression, anger, is cognitively based. It can be treated biochemically, that's true. But the cause is generally cognitive. And we know that because you say to someone who's depressed, why are you depressed? Well, I'm depressed because I lost my job. Well, it's not losing your job, it's the perception you have of losing the job, because not everybody who loses their job feels depressed. Anyway, the point there is that humor shifts cognition, and Peanuts cartoons are great for that. You read a Peanuts cartoon, you don't guffaw, you don't generally laugh, but you get it, and it shifts your way of thinking. It adds perspective to life, and that's another way that humor can be effective. And then the final way is with the social interactive part, the relational fusion, and bonded relationships. And there's an enormous amount of research on bonded relationships, have all sorts of physiological and health benefits as well as emotional benefits. So if you can embrace some part of humor that you can activate laughter, mirth, wit, and relational fusion, it can have a great recovery effect. And it's really simple, and it's free, and it's out there. I encourage people to learn one simple one-liner or joke that they can share with somebody. And when you have that interaction, there's that additional bonding that again has a very important health benefit. So those are some of the ways that I use humor with recovery.
I think that's excellent. Okay, so I see a lot of hands, and that's wonderful. What I'm going to do is we're going to move to the next section, which is the future, which is AI, politics, and COVID. So just bring in the recovery with the new question. So we'll start with Leri.
Hi. Sorry, what is the third question? I have to look it up.
The first, we were talking about recovery, and you had raised your hand. So go
Yeah.
ahead and give us a comment. But then
I wasn't doing
also, if you want to comment on the future, because I got to keep with time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a technique that I share, I even have a free ebook on my website about it. It's called Beyond Suffering, and it's just a simple technique that you can do within 10 minutes anytime that you feel like you're stuck in your thoughts or in your head or strong in your emotion. And what I have people do is just label the problem with a word or two, no more than a sentence, and feel into that problem as intensely as they can. So if it's sadness or it's anger or whatever the emotion is, just to feel it really strongly in their body, and just start to monitor it, just watch it, and you'll start seeing that our emotions usually last only 90 seconds to like 5 to 10 minutes. Then you'll start to feel it rising out. And then from there, you say to yourself, like, what do you want instead? And like, if you say to be content or to peace or joy, and then you just start feeling that peace and that joy intensely in your body, like try to let it radiate out and fill the room until you feel that peace and that joy, and then take a couple of deep breaths and you'll have peace right there. So I wanted to share that.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. So over to you, Dr. Dang.
I am Dr. Dana Wang. I'm a psychiatrist and co-founder of RIVIA Minds. I want to say, earlier I cited the statistic of 60 million Americans suffering from mental health just in the past year. That's a very scary and huge number, and we don't need to look too far away. So the tip I would offer is for us just to look around each other, and build a support network within the people that are around you, who you feel can give you the space to be who you are and accept you and love you. Now, that's harder than it sounds, but I think building a supportive network is intentional, and it involves us putting boundaries and really choosing who we associate with. So that is one tip I would like to offer each of one of you. The earlier sharing regarding humor, I think humor is a social interaction, and laughter is, if I read it correctly, some research in the past said that we actually laugh more when we're surrounded by other people, and we laugh less by ourselves, even if we're reading something humorous or interacting with something humorous. So that just highlights being around the right support is very important. With the rise of AI, we don't know what's going to happen, but it may replace even more of our in-person social interactions. So even more vital for surrounding yourself with people you trust and care about.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. Okay, so Judge Mary Beth, I'm going to bring you in next.
I just wanted to mention, as the recovery side of it, that most people, of course, do know about the peer support group of 12 Steps, which is Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and all of the Anonymouses. And that those programs fit well for some people, but they're also not the right fit for many others. And one of the advantages of COVID is that it actually, the other peer support options actually have many more meetings available online. So even though these groups are in local communities, they're not in every community the way 12 Steps is, but you can always participate online. So if someone's looking for peer support for substance use, they might want to look at some of the larger options. That will, of course, include 12 steps, but also Life-Ring Secular Recovery, Smart Recovery, She Recovers, Women for Sobriety, and Recovery Dharma. Those are really the 6 largest groups, and you can research them online, find out what their philosophy is, what their viewpoint is, what the sort of the basic approach is, but also the meeting formats really vary. And so some people are more comfortable with one meeting type over another. And so I'm on the board for Life-Ring and She Recovers, but I always talk about them, but my primary concern is that people know they have choices so they can find the right fit. Because if they find the place they're most comfortable, they're going to increase their odds of success. And so that's always my main concern. And then just quickly, because I know you wanted to turn to question about the AI or political changes, I will mention one thing, which is that most communities have a large amount of money, noticeable amount of money coming in from the settlements that were done with the pharmaceutical companies that created were largely responsible for the extreme prescribing of opiates that have been one of the primary drivers of the overdose epidemic. There are funds coming into local communities. Those funds are supposed to be used for things related to reducing the overdose rate, reducing the substance use rate. Some communities are actually hiding how they're using the money, or they're using it to reinforce their general fund rather than for what's targeted. So if you're interested in trying to help your community members who are struggling with substances, you might want to look and find out how that money is being spent in your local community, and make sure that you have input if you think it's not being spent properly.
Good points. Yeah. Well, that was good resources. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so I'm going to close this panel discussion. Any thoughts about the future? And I'm going to bring Elton, who is the co-founder with me and co-producer, and he will wrap us up.
Well, actually, I've just been sitting here observing, listening, and paying closer attention to each of you. And I want to thank you all for your participation and support. And also think in mind that this is we could use your support, could use your sponsorship, could use your, processing so that we can continue this process forward. We've been continuing this for some time, and we never neglect or overlook all the people that help us support and sponsor these programs. They're also rejuvenating, and we appreciate you all. We really, really appreciate you all, and we thank you for your sponsorship and support. And they all have their own value. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And on that note, I'd like to close out. And you could always be a guest on our show. And we do 4 to 6 events a month. And that's an opportunity to meet somebody that's non-medical and non-healthcare. So if you want to meet future prospects and customers, come back. We've put you on our mailing list, and we do 4 to 6 broadcasts. And every time you appear, you get a video, so you can share that video with your networks and your prospects as well. So we really value what you bring, and thank you for joining us. And we will do health and wellness every month till the close of the year. Holidays is when we have a lot of phone calls about suicide and people panic. I don't know. Holidays are supposed to be the best time of the year, and yet it is not the best time for some. So we do a lot with our broadcast, and we have a lot of positive messages, and we have a lot of people calling in to the station during that period asking for help. So you're bringing great value to the online community, and when they hear from you, they feel a lot better. And there's so much fake news around. So to get people like you that are board certified and licensed to give good advice versus all the advice that's going on around is very valuable. And thank you for all that you bring. So would anyone like to close us out with the future, where we're going? Or with that, we can close. Dr. Deitrick, since you started us.
Well, just as far as like the future, I just wanted to for everyone that is out there listening, just to really take care of yourself and put yourself as a priority. If you feel that there's any issue that you need to address, don't be ashamed in seeking help wherever it may be in your community. You're using your faith, getting with a professional, even looking inward. If there's something about you that you want to change, you're the only one who can start that. And so I just wanted to say, perform the ultimate self-care, self-love, and self-reflection to change your life if there's something you really want to do, and just get help. So that's what I wanted to just add.
I'll close out with this. Thank you all. If you can't afford sponsorships, send a sponsorship for a pie, a key lime pie, and everybody gets a piece of it. Hey, that's easy enough. Thank you so much. Everybody can do something.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true. All right. Well, thank you so much. And you are watching Discover Brightside. And yes, if you're watching online, you can contribute too. So if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever this channel appears, we hope you'll write us a comment, and we hope you'll subscribe, and we hope that you'll join us. We have 4 events, so you can join us live in the studio, and you can also join us just on demand. So we hope that you will join us again. Thank you for